G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game. We are here on the brand new expansion for Age of Empires 4. This is the Sultan's Ascend. Today we've got ourselves a fun matchup, something never before seen. It is an old civilization, the Malians, up against a new civ, the Byzantines. Let's introduce our players for today. In the north, playing in the color purple, as the Malians, we've got, well, I don't know what his name is, but I'll tell you right now, I'm confident he's good. He's a Conqueror 3 player, so we're going to be in for a pretty good game today. And on the south side, in the color teal, playing as the Byzantines, we've got Mito. For anybody unfamiliar with Mito, this guy is an absolute behemoth when it comes to new civilizations and theorizing what they might be up to. So I'm very curious to see what we have today from him, because he's always ahead of the curve when it comes to things on the meta. So we'll be paying close attention to him on the Byzantines, and already we can see something interesting. He's looking to utilize the early unique unit available to the Byzantines here, and it's going to be the Lamentinai. I know I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry. I'll get it eventually. So the Lamentinai, unique spearmen available to the Byzantines, a very cheap unit as well, important to note. Now, I've done like a little bit of theory crafting, opening up with a barracks with the Byzantines. It feels a bit awkward to do. It's kind of like doing it with the Japanese. But the one thing that it's got going for it is that you don't have to gather a lot of wood, just simply because you've only got a unit that costs 10 wood. So early on, this does make sense, especially considering this matchup. I can't imagine where you'd get this early barracks in many other matchups. I think realistically the Malians is probably the biggest one. Maybe against, I'm thinking even like Abbasid, just to try and be annoying, but then they're gonna go military wing anyway. It's probably not worth it. So I think this is about pretty much the only matchup you could go for where it would make sense. Otherwise, you're just gonna be rolling. So he's going to be looking to put on pressure towards his purple opponent early on in this game. We see that scout coming back. And of course, the map that we're playing on here, it's not Cliffside. It's, I've forgotten the name of it. I apologize. It'll take me a while to get used to it all. But it's, of course, if you're not familiar with it, it's the map that's split up. It's awkward playing on this map. I've played on this map a couple times before, and it just feels a bit weird when you're fighting on it, because you really just want to wall off one side and man fight him on the other side. But we do now start to see those Lamentinai beginning to put on the pressure, and he's going to look to focus down the pit mine here. Curious target. Normally you'd go after the houses because they're a little bit cheaper, but we do now start to see it's going to be the Saharan trade network that gets thrown down. Let's check in over on the other side though, as Mito is now throwing down a second cistern in the Dark Age. We have got Dark Age system technology that is happening. Remember earlier I spoke about the fact that Mito is ahead of the curve often when it comes to the meta. Let's just say right now, this is a great example of it. Now, I think for going for the early Lamentinai, you and I could have figured that one out, but I love the way that he's gone for this second cistern, and he's still on stone. Keep in mind, we're in the Dark Age here. He's got 2 villas on stone. The first cistern cost 50 stone. The second one cost 100, and that's going to continue to ramp up as you add more cisterns in. The only thing to note is that that bonus that you're getting, it doesn't ramp up with it. It goes up slowly. It's 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, but it's not exponential in its growth. It is just very, very slow on that, a very linear growth. I guess realistically it's probably linear in the same token that the cistern is. But anyway, it's a nice little base that he's got built early on here, and I do like this opening because it mitigates a lot of bad spawns. Normally when you're playing the Byzantines, you get a good spawn about half the time, and the other half you don't. That might be a spawn where you've got wood and berries and gold all together. Well, here you don't have that. You've got wood and stone on one side, and then gold and your berries on the other. So you've got to make a decision, but Mito doesn't have to, because he just makes sure he goes for the double early on. But now that house under pressure, you can see that the Saharan trade network is going to be able to put on some solid defense here. Means Mito's not going to be able to push in and take out any villagers if they come through. It looks like he's going to get that last volley off, but the repair comes in just in time. Remember, these houses are only cheap, 25 wood, but every small battle counts, and if you're able to help out with a victory here, it could lead to something bigger, greater later on. But we now start to see that hippodrome coming in for Mito. And have a look at the amount of stone that he's got saved up. Already got 256 stone in the bank. And I do like this opening a lot. It makes sense, right, when you think about it, because you're opening up with a spearman type unit, which is going to force naturally your opponent to respond with archers. And what do you go for? Well, you go for the Imperial Hippodrome. So that's going to force your opponent into a unit that you're going to be able to counter easily with your free military landmark. So a nice little bonus there. But what's interesting to me is that Mido's not going... Okay, I was going to say Mido's not going for a third cistern here because he could definitely afford it. He can actually afford to throw down a fourth one very shortly as well. And there's the archer. Looks like it's just going to be a single archer for the moment. And definitely the right call. Only the one archer makes sense here. Players might be a little bit more tempted to go for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 archers, but then it's just going to play right into the trap of the Byzantines. So good to see that his purple opponent is not up to that just yet. So we now start to see that third system being added in onto the network. He's adding in the aqueduct as well, working towards that level 3 bonus. And keep in mind that by taking this higher level bonus here, he's going to be able to buff up that military production speed, as well as things like research speed, which is going to be very nice to have. And eventually, when it comes to it, the defensive bonus, which reduces the damage you take on those buildings. You can see an extra 32 stone coming in right there for Mido. So that now that connection has completed. He's got a couple of options if he wants to go for a 4th or a 5th cistern. I mean, realistically, where do you put it? You've got options out on the berries here. I think that would make sense, but that's a really long aqueduct to draw, and you got to be careful drawing aqueducts that long. And then on the other side of the map, there's really not much down here. There's a deer pack that you might be able to go for, but once again, it's the consequence of having a map like this where it just feels a bit awkward. And I'm almost tempted to say, you know what, just, oh, he's going, oh, he's actually going for it. Okay. I was going to say I'm more tempted to go for that 5th aqueduct. Just throw it somewhere down here in the back of the base. That way you don't have to worry about it, you know, getting taken out or anything like that, because it is expensive. If you do lose them, you are going to be paying full price to replace them. Looks like we are going to start to see that horseman transition now for Mido. We're right on board as the wheelbarrow technology is coming through for him as well. You can see he's just pumping out horsemen at this point in time. One of the things that we often see with the Byzantines now is going into this landmark, the Imperial Hippodrome. Definitely, in my opinion, the better of the landmarks, just allowing you the flexibility all game long to have that triumph ability. Always have that extra little bit of damage in the back pocket, extra bit of movement speed, and of course the extra bit of healing definitely goes nicely down. And can we just compliment the lighting in this game? The fact that I can see the shadows as these units walk over the top of this ridge. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? Let's speak, though, about this purple player in the north of the map as he begins to add in cattle. Cattle numbers are rising. Up to 5 cattle so far. Throwing them into the pastures, into the ranches. These are the cattle ranches over here. Cattle ranch. We've also got a second pit mine coming up over on the east side here. So just playing that standard Malian strategy of, you know, passive income. They're investing in their EFTs, all that good stuffs. It's coming online. But let's check in now on that south side. See how Mido's doing as he's working towards... What's he working towards? Let's take a look here. It looks like we've got some mercenaries coming through here. So he is going to be going into the Eastern Mercenary contract, which, once again, definitely makes the most sense. You know, you're adding cavalry to a civilization that already is motivated to go cavalry with the triumph ability, so definitely makes sense in that regard. But now, looking to raid in onto this north side of the map. Has he picked up his unique ability? Trapezites? Doesn't look like it just yet. Keep in mind, they do have access to a unique ability which enhances the torch damage of nearby units for 25%. That's if a scout is nearby, and you do see he keeps the scout up here. So I definitely think that's a smart idea to be moving into a technology like that here, especially up against a civilization like the Malians, where you're going to be looking for that mobility. It's quite often that you see them go for the sofas, but that's only going to be once they reach the castle age. Looks like he will be able to take out the first of the pastures, or the ranches rather. The reason I call them pastures is because in Age of Empires 3 they were called pastures, but in Age of Empires 4 they're not. But it just kind of sticks with you. As you guys know, I played a fair bit of Dota, League, and Hon back when I was younger. And Hon was the first game that I played, and that was based off Dota. So when I went over to Dota 2, everything that I knew from Hon, it was already in Dota 2. And so I just called all of the Dota 2 items the same names that I would call them in Hon. And what that meant is that I never learned the names of anything. I just refer to them naturally by their Hon names. And it's the same kind of thing here with Age of Empires 3 and Age of Empires 4. It's just like, yeah, I just see that and I'm like, oh, look, that's a pasture. That's what it is. It's a pasture. But anyway, we move on. And it looks like we do have a 5th cistern coming down here for Mido on the south side of the map. Bit of an interesting spot. Once again, this is kind of far forward. And remember that he's paid full price for this, right? You're paying 300 stone for each one of these once they get up to this level. And if you lose this and it dies, you're going to have to rebuild it, and you're going to have to pay the full price for it. So I feel like going for these sort of fringe cisterns, especially if they're a little bit far forward, can be quite dangerous unless you're in a position where you can justify, you know, I want Presidium to come out on, at least I think it's Presidium. Presidium. Yeah, Presidium. As long as you can justify, like, maybe you've got a keep up here on the gold and it's getting sieged by a trebuchet or two, then you can throw down the cistern and then connect it to the aqueduct network, and then that way you've got, you know, a little bit of solidification of that position. Age up now coming through. It's going to be the Golden Horn Tower. No real surprise here. With a level 5 cistern network, that's going to mean that this landmark is equivalent to 12 villages. That's a huge amount of resources that are coming through. Keep in mind, you don't have to add in the production. You don't have to add in, you know, it's no villages that you have to worry about. It just sits there and it just pumps out units. So a very nice landmark to have. But now, on that north side, we've got another age up coming through. It's going to be the Grand Fulani Corral. A little bit of a matchup here. This is why I'm excited to see, because we've got an old civilization versus a new civilization. Now, granted, the new civilization that we've got is arguably the weakest of the new civilizations. If I had to pick one which was the weakest, I would say it's the Byzantines, but that's also because it's probably, it is the most complex. So it's going to take time for everyone to figure it out, and that's why I'm excited we get to watch Mido today, because he's going to help us. He's going to help accelerate that learning process here, and I'm already loving this opening from him. The fact that he's gone into the triple cisterns in the Dark Age, it's just not something that you typically see out of the Byzantines, and because of that, I'm excited. I'm excited. Double stable coming down on that north side, though. You can see our Malian player is looking to gear up. And one of the things to note is that the Malian player has scouted out the Hippodrome, so could be aware of the threat of cataphracts. Instead of going into that most common Malian combination of archers and Sofa, he's instead looking to go into Donzos quite heavily, but we will expect it that he moves into Sofa as well. That one, rather, is the Sofa. There you go. You can see the imported armor now coming through. But I would expect to see the Donzos being upgraded. Indeed, we do get to see those Donzos being upgraded, just because he's very aware of this and looking to kind of fight the civilization the same way you would against the French, and that is going for spear cav. It makes a lot of sense. Let's check in with Mido, though, on the south side of the map. Villagers in a bit of an awkward position. 20 villagers moving out over here, whereas, like, you could have just kind of kept them here. And this is the part where it's like, it pains me. It pains me. But anyway, look, maybe it comes to bite, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Keshik numbers are starting to build, though. Cataphract is out as well. He's popped that Triumph ability. He's going to be healing up each of these bad boys plenty long. You can see that he's got the Triumph for another 45 seconds on this Cataphract. That's going to be healing for another 90 health. Damn. I tell you what, that is not too bad at all. Now we start to see it's going to be the Scout and the Horseman almost get caught out of position there. The Donzo's doing a decent job. He's going to bring in the additional cavalry forces. He's got the ability to throw down the trample if he so chooses. Donzo's turn around. Just one shot the first of the Horsemen. Continue making their way back through, and he's got to be careful to avoid overcommitting in a situation like this. He's getting very close to the enemy production. And as you know, the units can come out quickly, but it looks like he's going to clean up the first block of units. Second block coming forward. It's just a couple of Donzos, an archer in the back, and a couple of Sofas. But for the moment, the Cataphracts are looking strong. They've got that heal going on non-stop. Remember, he didn't go for the cistern of the first hill, so he doesn't have access to that flask ability, that gulp, gulp, gulp ability that you often see. But he is fighting up against a very fierce production/economy. Speaking of economies, let's take a look and see what the numbers are at the moment. You've got about 14, 15, so about 3k income over here for the Malians compared to himself. 1.6, 1.7k, that is a bit, I guess with this as well, we'll call it 1.8k. That's a big difference between economies. 3,000 resources versus 1,800. My, oh my, that is a big amount. And, you know, as long as our Malian player survives now, which he has, surely that's going to translate to a very happy mid-game army. Let's wait and see how it plays, though, because he's got a number of things that aren't appearing up the top here. Most notably, he's got the Golden Horn Tower, which isn't going to be showing up. And he does have relics that are going to be coming through on the way as the monastery is on the field. But now, towards the middle of the map, keep in mind he does not have access to Triumph for a long time the way he used to. He's going to have to wait for his tickets to build there, and you can see the Malian player doing a wonderful job of just chasing these cavalry units away. A couple of Lament Knight looking to try and make their way through, yet to receive their hardened upgrade, let alone their veterancy at this stage in the game. He's got to be careful because he's really facing up a decent number of Donzos here. And now we can see that it looks like towards the main base, a bit of a raid coming through. A single veteran Sofa looking to try its best. And the cleanup on the front line going to be coming in with that Triumph ability. All of the cavalry here on the front gets that accelerated damage bonus. And now he's actually done a pretty decent job in holding on. That's the power of the cataphract right there. Do not underestimate this unit. It might look, well, to be honest, it looks pretty scary. I wouldn't underestimate it. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't think about it. Cataphract does go down. More Keshiks going to come in here. These are the ones that just cleaned up the sofa in the base. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see players look to wall up opposite sides of the map, or one side of the map. You know, we're fighting at the moment towards this north side because that's where the gold is. And so if Mito's able to win the fight, then he's able to siege down this gold. Whereas on that south side, it's a little bit more passive. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a wall come up on that side. Maybe wall in the sacred site, as these sofas are now coming across. And this is exactly what you want to try and prevent from happening. Just a wall across here, wall down here, and then wall along the edge. And that's exactly what we've got starting to come through now from our Malian player. You can feel it around the 15-minute mark. It makes sense to have them up by about then, just to avoid these slow and steady raids from coming in. But have a look at this. We've already got olive groves on the way. Villagers will get caught out of position. Sofas managed to make a decent connection here. They're going to try and look to take out these villagers, yet to receive their textile upgrade. At the same time, towards that north side, the Donzo numbers continue to build here. Archers getting caught out of position. Upgrades have come through. He's picked up the veterancy, and now Mito going for some gulams. Unable to make the choice about which units he gets. Instead, just going to have to get what he's given. But the numbers looking solid for him here as he defends against the opponent, just cleaning up a huge mass of infantry. Now those sofas going to be looking to try and get through into the enemy base, try and distract his opponent. We can see that it is just going to be a wall in response to it. This makes total sense. We've talked about closing off, and the reason why these walls are so necessary is because if you've got your army over on this side of the map, to get them over to this side of the map, you're going to need to walk all the way around the cliff, down around the edge, and then back up the cliff again. So it just makes it much easier to respond to enemy threats by walling off, because it gives you that time to react. But now, towards the east corner of the map, more villagers are exposed. Fortunately, there is cavalry here to deal with this threat. But at the same time, towards the front, Mito is under pressure. We can see this is exactly what we talk about when we use that swimming analogy. Think about it as you're pushing off the wall in swimming. It's that huge boost to the economy that you're getting right now as the Malian player. Hitting close to that 3k income per minute right now. Just free real estate, really. Town center idled out, and this is where it starts to get troublesome for Mito. 15 villagers that should be collecting resources instead are stuck in this town center. And that's been exacerbated because this isn't the first time it's happened. He was tied up over here on the west side as well. And now Mito looking to finish off this wall. A couple of units sit right towards the edge of it. But at the same token, it looks like his opponent may be unsuccessful in his completion of the wall as well. Towards the middle of the base, it looks like all the units have been cleaned up. The Monk is out. How are we looking for relics? It's 2 versus 1 at the moment. Look at the number of units that are coming out from the Malian players. Just streams of units. Mito needs to buy himself time. You can feel it. He needs to stabilize. He knows what he needs to do. He needs to survive. That's the most important thing to do right now as the Byzantines, is survive. So I feel like a keep being thrown down in this position would be great. Alternatively, a wall with some ranged units. Maybe that's archers, maybe that's crossbows, just something to utilize that wall, prevent it from going down against all of these melee units, because if our Malian player is able to make a connection with his army, he will be successful. I can tell you that much today. This is a fearsome amount of units that he's got right here, and he's really starting to outgather his opponent significant. 3 sofas now getting chased away by the Gulams. It looks like a little bit of a raid on that western corner. Trying to find his way through. A villager has made his way through, but will get chased down by the sofa. And now it looks like that push is coming to shove on this north side of Mito's base. Mito with the defense. He's got access to the cataphract. I don't know how many charges we got. We got 20 charges of triumph. We're going to head into the cinematic mode right now because it is time to get it on. Horseman, nowhere to be seen. He's got the sofa warrior. Instead, the cataphracts getting caught around all of these archery rangers. He just needs to pull all of these units back, but you can see he's getting eaten alive here. The Donzo's just uncontested. All the archers have gone down. The sofa doing a wonderful job here, and Mito looks like he might be coming up short in this game. The Malian timing push looking very strong, very confident. And I guess it just goes to show that the new civs, well, they're not as strong as we think they are, as Mito taps out and the game gets called. Fellas, if you've enjoyed this casted game, make sure you go and check out the expansion pack. If you haven't already bought it, I'll make sure I leave a link in the description of where you can purchase it over on Steam. And other than that, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.